Racial segregation was an ongoing issue during the 1940s as a dying practice and solution to the fear of the United States' growing influence of cultures. During World War II, 250 to a total of 750,000 within the armed forces, and were at the time included in the general white population. However, back home, Mexican Americans were anything but equal to the latter, as Mexican Americans were viewed either as gangsters or a cheap labor source for the economy. During the same time in the States, Mexicans faced racism that escalated to the infamous Zoot Suit riots of 1943, or the Bracero program that supported the institution of contracting Mexicans indefinitely with little to no employment rights. Instances such as the Sleepy Lagoon case supported the social environment of Hispanic image in California during the 1940s and beforehand. Mexicans dressing similar to Zoot Suits openly attacked and stripped in the streets was the result of one incident between a group of sailors and one group of Hispanics that appeared in Zoot Suits. Mexicans during this moment were being profiled as such, and this held social obstacles as we could imagine for the family. Bear in mind, during this time in history, that the Mexican family moreover reflected the same patriarchal values as the common American family. President Roosevelt issued an executive order in 1941 banning discrimination in defense industry hiring positively affected employer reluctance to hire Hispanics. Considering the progressive movement and the war effort by FDR, discrimination in schooling was not far from being addressed for the Hispanic community.
When people think of the end of racial segregation in the school system, they are commonly referring to the Brown versus Board of Education case that took place in the U.S. Supreme Courts. However, many years before this took place, a federal court in California ruled that the segregation of children was unconstitutional. This case differed from that of Brown versus the Board of Education because it was centered around the segregation of Mexican American school children. This case, known as Mendez versus Westminster, took place in 1947 after Sylvia Mendez and many other Mexican American and Latin children were turned away from certain California public schools because of their ethnicity. This situation begins when Gonzalo Mendez goes to enroll his children in Westminster Main School, the same school that he attended as a Mexican-American child. When he arrived, he was told that he would have to take his children to the Hoover School, which was a part of a completely different school district and only had Mexican-American children enrolled in it. He was shocked to hear this information and decided to meet with the principal, the Westminster School Board, and eventually the Orange County School Board, but no one was willing to change his children's enrollment. He chose to get a lawyer and throughout this process learned that there were many other school districts in the Orange County area that were segregating Mexican American students. On March 2, 1945, Mendez and his attorney filed a class action lawsuit in a U.S. District Court on the behalf of 5,000 other people who were also of Mexican and Latin descent. The defendants were 4 school districts, their superintendents, and their school boards. The plaintiffs argued that their children had been arbitrarily assigned to attend schools reserved for and attended solely and exclusively by children of Mexican and Latin descent, while other schools in the same system were reserved solely and exclusively for children known as white or Anglo-Saxon children. When there was no state law mandating their segregation, they argued that segregating children of Mexican ancestry was a violation of the Equal Protection of the Law Clause of the 14th Amendment. The attorney did not argue that the school districts were segregating on the basis of race. In fact, he argued there was no racial segregation because Mexicans were members of the white race. The attorney knew that he could not argue that segregation based on race was unconstitutional because the U.S. Supreme Court in Plessy v. Ferguson in 1896 had upheld racial segregation. Judge McCormick ultimately decided that the equal protection of the laws pertaining to the public school system in California is not provided by furnishing in separate schools the same technical facilities, textbooks, and courses of instruction to children of Mexican ancestry that are available to the other public school children regardless of their ancestry. A paramount requisite in the American system of public education is social equality. He closed in saying it must be open to all children by unified school association regardless of lineage.
class. So today we will be discussing multiplications and yes.
Oh, someone do it.
Okay, continuing. Can I help you?
Yes, can you speak to me, please?
Sure. So what brings you two in today?
I want to know about this.
Oh, you saw this.
We're taking this to court.
Well, good luck.